It's been nearly 2 years since 4 college students were found brutally murdered in their off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho. The case gripped the nation, its savagery, its seeming randomness, and the quiet suspect who emerged from the shadows. Bryan Kohberger, a criminology PhD student with a chilling academic interest in the criminal mind, now sits behind bars, awaiting trial for one of the most disturbing mass homicides in recent American memory. But now, just months before his scheduled trial date, Kohberger's legal team has filed a bold motion that could reshape the entire timeline of justice. They're asking the court to delay his capital murder trial, arguing that the path ahead is not only too complex, but fundamentally unfair without more time. At stake, nothing less than the defendant's life and the faith of the public in the justice system's ability to handle a case of this magnitude. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on what's really happening behind the courtroom doors. We'll walk you through the latest developments, the legal strategies in play, and why this motion to delay could signal more than just a scheduling conflict. It could redefine how this case is remembered. This is The Dark Stories. Hey everyone, welcome back to The Dark Stories, where we explore the most haunting criminal cases with depth, empathy, and clarity. If you've been following the Bryan Kohberger case, you know how many twists and unanswered questions still remain. And now, with the defense asking for a major delay, it's time to dissect exactly what this means, not just for the families of the victims, but for the accused, the prosecution, and the future of this trial. Let's dive in. On May 16th, 2024, Bryan Kohberger's defense team filed a formal motion in Idaho's Latah County District Court, asking to postpone his trial. Originally set to begin in the summer of 2025. The reason? They say there's simply no way they can be ready in time. To understand this, we need to remember the scope of the charges. Kohberger is facing 4 counts of capital murder for the deaths of Madison Mogen, Kelly Goncalves, Sana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. These aren't just any charges. The state of Idaho is seeking the death penalty, an extremely rare step in the state, and one that adds layers of legal complexity. According to the motion, the defense argues that proceeding with trial as scheduled would violate Kohberger's constitutional rights, specifically his right to due process, effective assistance of counsel, and protection from cruel and unusual punishment under the 8th and 14th Amendments. Their argument hinges on one central claim: they haven't had enough time to prepare. Here's what the defense says they're up against. They've received more than 51 terabytes of discovery from prosecutors. That's equivalent to tens of thousands of hours of digital surveillance, police reports, cell phone data, forensic findings, and more. And it's not just raw data. It's data that needs to be reviewed, contextualized, and then reanalyzed by defense experts. In addition to that, the defense claims they've had serious difficulties securing access to certain crucial materials. For example, some of the evidence has required specific software just to open and view, and there have been disputes over what the defense is entitled to under discovery rules. The legal team also points out that preparing for a capital trial isn't just about reading files. It's about building a life history mitigation case. That involves interviewing dozens of people who knew Kohberger from childhood, school, work, and other walks of life. It also involves retaining mental health experts, forensic scientists, and investigators, all of whom need time to do their jobs thoroughly and ethically. They're not just preparing for trial, They're preparing for a possible fight to save his life. Another reason the defense cites for the delay: the tsunami of media coverage that has surrounded the case. From the moment Bryan Kohberger's name was released, headlines have been relentless. News vans surrounded the courtroom. Social media exploded with speculation, theories, and character judgments. For months, Kohberger's image, stoic, ghostly, appeared on every major outlet. His attorneys argue that this pretrial publicity has tainted the potential jury pool in Latah County and beyond. In fact, they've already filed a separate motion to change the venue entirely, seeking a new location for the trial, far from the original community where the killings occurred. The combination of high-profile coverage and local trauma, they say, makes a fair trial impossible without time to cool the media frenzy and properly vet jurors. And remember, in a capital trial, jury selection is more intense than usual. It involves lengthy questioning about views on the death penalty, pre-existing knowledge of the case, and any bias that could affect deliberations. That process alone could take months. In their filing, the defense stresses something that cuts to the heart of the matter. This is a death penalty case. That phrase isn't just for effect. It carries serious legal weight. Capital cases are governed by different standards, higher ethical duties, and more intense scrutiny. In fact, the U.S. Supreme Court has repeatedly held that death is different, not only in its finality, but in the legal care required to impose it. That means defense counsel must be given adequate time and resources to investigate every possible avenue of mitigation, mental health background, and alternative theory. Failure to do so doesn't just risk a wrongful conviction. It sets the stage for years, sometimes decades, of appeals, retrials, and constitutional challenges. Kohberger's attorneys are making it clear they don't just want time, they need it to fulfill their duties under the law, the ABA guidelines for capital defense, and their own moral obligation to ensure that if the state seeks death, it does so with full and fair due process. As of now, the prosecution has not formally opposed the motion to delay, but they are expected to respond soon. In previous hearings, prosecutors have emphasized the importance of moving forward and honoring the timeline that was originally agreed upon. Families of the victims have expressed both grief and exhaustion with the slow pace, but also a deep desire for the trial to be done right. A hearing on the motion is expected within the coming weeks. The judge overseeing the case will need to weigh the defendant's rights, the court's schedule, the victims' families, and the integrity of the process. If the motion is granted, the trial could be pushed back many months, possibly well into 2026. That would mean more time for both sides, but also more waiting, more pain, and more unanswered questions. This isn't just a story about scheduling. It's a story about the foundation of our justice system. What do we owe the accused, even in the face of horrifying allegations? How do we balance the rights of a defendant with the pain of grieving families? And when the death penalty is on the table, how sure do we need to be, not just of guilt, but of fairness? The Bryan Kohberger case continues to challenge every part of the system, from digital evidence management to media ethics to constitutional law. And this latest motion is a stark reminder that in true crime, justice is never fast, and it's never easy. Thanks for watching The Dark Stories. If you found this breakdown informative, please like, subscribe, and share with others who follow the legal twists of this deeply emotional case. Leave a comment below. Do you think the trial should be delayed? Or has there already been too much time? We'll keep following the story as it develops. Until then, stay safe, stay informed, and never forget the people behind the headlines. This is the Dark Stories, where true crime gets the depth it deserves.